what we're doing is taking a relook at how you can take innovation, forget about the technology, but all innovation, and string together as a recipe in the context of that point on the planet Earth to create a high-performance urban environment.
I'm Adam Jones. This is the Future of Structures podcast. Today we are talking with Paul Doherty, who was reported by CNBC as one of the 29 top American business titans. He is a registered architect and now one of the global industry's most sought-after thought leaders. He is currently the president and CEO of the Digi Group, a leading smart cities design, build, operate and solutions company. His past successful ventures include Revit, which was sold to Autodesk in 2002. I'm sure you've heard of that. Buzzsaw, sold to Autodesk in 2001. And TRIRIGA, sold to IBM in 2011. In this episode, we talk about connecting cities with fast rail, how automation will affect white and blue collar jobs, and also the world's tallest tower, Kingdom Tower, to be integrated as a vertical city, a virtual reality theme park in China, and building smart utopian cities from scratch like the one he's building in Jeddah. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the show as much as I did. It's very rare you get to speak to someone with a brain like Paul Doherty from the Digi Group. And without any further ado, here is the episode with Paul Doherty on smart cities.
Sure thing, Adam. Well, I'm an architect, a real one, not a software architect. But I was also a builder, a contractor. So I come at the industry from more of a design build aspect. I can't understand how designers can spend 5 years with a professional degree and never had stepped foot on a job site. Yet you're telling people how to build buildings. Just mind-boggling. But that's another whole podcast I'm sure that we can dive into. But when I was in school, I did work study. I went to school in New York City, and there happened to be a little company called IBM that was looking for some interns. So I did work study for the last half of my academic career. But I was not designing bathrooms and stuff you do as you get to learn what it means to be in the business. I did the layouts and the construction of all the trade show booths for IBM. So I got to learn technology at a very young age in an intimate fashion, both hardware and software, because I had to learn how it worked in order to design the trade show booths. So I've always looked at technology as a piece of, like a material. It's just as important as wood flooring and cabinets in my mind. So I've never seen it being different. So that's where the career started. So the Digi Group was formed based upon all that background of creating tools, of having an intimate relationship with both hardware and software, where we saw the collision of IT in the real estate industry, and I didn't want to make it a violent collision. And where we're at now is that as an organization, we decided to create our own software, our own way of managing data, and coming up with very interesting processes in order to not just create one building or one stretch of road, but entire cities.
So some of this amazing technology and IT coming into the real estate industry. So where would you say that's on the adoption curve? Do you think it's at that early innovator stage or that early adopter, or do you think we're really approaching or crossing the chasm toward the early majority?
Well, that's a great question, Adam. I would say I would take it into that curve, of crossing the chasm of the early adopters into the trough of disillusionment and coming out the other side. And I would take one innovation, the Segway, as one example, right? Where the Segway was going to replace bicycles. It was this amazing new technology that allowed people to use weight and balance and magnet and all sorts of things to create a new mobile vehicle. But what was supposed to be for the mass market has now been the de facto standard for very fat, security guards at shopping malls. And guess what? They soaked the market. So they crossed the chasm, but what came out at the end was not really what the desired result was in the beginning. I think that is the exact place we're at, and what I'm seeing squeezing through, crossing the chasm, coming out the other side. There's certain technologies that really wasn't what we wanted, and it had a lesser impact. But when you take it as an ecosystem, you take it as a recipe, it becomes very profound. So, I can poke holes in anyone saying, it's going to be some sort of, new material, or it's a new engine, or it's a new, piece of equipment. It's a new technology. It's a new piece of software. And, it's going to be IoT is the next big thing in design. And I can poke holes in every one of those and say it's not even making it to early adopter stage, because everyone's talking about it. It's up on, every association has, some person up there saying, bin for FM, it's the way things are going, and that's the next big thing, or IoT is the big thing, and blah, 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 blah. And it's not. What's really coming down to is that we're looking right now at innovations, all innovations, as ingredients in a kitchen. The more ingredients that you have, the more that you can create wild recipes that are in context for somewhere on the planet Earth. There is no silver bullet. I think that's the greatest thing of our age inside of our industry right now globally. No silver bullet, because there's two big factors that are hitting us. One is a very pragmatic one. We don't have enough workers in our industry. We don't. 2008 happened into 2010, the Great Recession, as they called it, and we missed an entire generation of workers coming into our industry globally. My biggest cost on every project is labor. Even in China, labor is number one cost now. So that means this is going to force a lot of innovation and a lot of adoption of automation faster than we think. There's a great example of a drywall company in Los Angeles that had the same problem. They couldn't get enough people. Then when they just pull people off the street, you train them and then they go for a better job. It's like this. It's a terrible thing, right? Like, oh my God. So what they did was they relied on technology. They partnered up with Microsoft with the HoloLens, and what they did was they took BIM and implemented it into the HoloLens, so that then you can create the scale by just creating your marks. I mean, that's the way augmented reality works. You have to set your marks, and then you then place the object that you want to see augmented into that space. So they took a 20-year plus seasoned veteran supervisor and his crew of 4. So it was 5 people. And they decided to, before they went into the actual project, which was the largest building built west of the Mississippi in the United States in the past 50 years, which is the Wilshire Center, they wanted to make sure that they had enough technology power in order to complete the project for real, because they have this contract, they got to put up drywall, not enough people. So what they did was they had in one room a 10-foot by 10-foot cube that was meant to be the equivalent of like a men's room. Then they put the one supervisor with a HoloLens into another room, same thing. And what they said was, here's all the studs, here's the drywall, and the team of 4 had blueprints, they had tape measures, they had levels, all traditional stuff. The one supervisor had the HoloLens, had never put it on before, and they said, go. The supervisor took about 4 minutes to learn how to, and of course they had a guy help him how to set the marks. Once the marks were set, he not only completed putting in the track, putting in the studs, and then putting up the drywall. It was without mistakes. So it was zero defect. And he finished 40% sooner than the crew of 4 with traditional methods, because he superimposed the model and just followed it like you would, and he was not off by a centimeter in a 10-foot by 10-foot room. Remarkable exercise. They made money on the Wilshire Center because they then said, we've got to start adopting this technology.
Yeah, phenomenal. So you guys at the Digi Group are doing a lot of work with smart cities. So to bring everyone up to speed who's listening right now with what an actual smart city is, it sounds like one of those arbitrary terms that really, a lot of people don't know what the hell it is. Can you, I guess, from your definition being in that industry, tell us what it might look like?
What we're doing is taking a relook at how you can take innovation, forget about the technology, but all innovation, and string together as a recipe in the context of that point on the planet Earth to create a high-performance urban environment. What I mean by that is that we have the ability now to start to see ahead of time what the implications are of a certain innovation. Let's take autonomous vehicles, right? Everyone's talking about, driverless cars. Well, who's talking about them? Well, car companies. Why? Because they want to remain relevant. We went through a 3-year study of trying to understand how the innovation of autonomous vehicles was going to affect how I built cities. Because at the essence, what I'm doing is building brand new cities from scratch, greenfield cities. Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, just north of Jeddah, called Kingdom City. That's under construction. We have our shovel-ready program in Qingdao, China right now for a virtual reality theme park, which is about a 90-acre site that's going to be a city within a city, that we're going to be able to find the proper innovations for that 90-acre site, mature it, and then scale it out into Qingdao. So really interesting, two different types of projects, really, really interesting projects. 2021 we'll have a critical mass completed with people living in the world's tallest building called the Kingdom Tower. It's 1 kilometer tall, 259 stories tall, designed by the same architect that did the Burj Khalifa, Adrian Smith and Gordon Gill in Chicago. Thornton Tomasetti are our structural engineers, and Bin Laden Group are our general contractors, and we work as a team. That 1 kilometer tall tower is actually a vertical city, integrated with things that now are going to be affected by autonomous vehicles. Why? Because the city that's surrounding it, the horizontal city that's supporting our vertical city in Jeddah, is a city without a street grid, a city that has a new type of energy that allows every building, every horizontal surface to be the power plant. So it's a DC powered only city. There's no need for AC current because there's nothing to transmit. There's no transformers. It's a 40% efficiency factor, 40%, because of kinetic energy that's implemented as different materials as a substrate to the finish of every single horizontal surface in this city for 500,000 people. We expect as a company to create over the next 15 years approximately between 80 and 83 brand new cities from scratch that are sizes of 360,000 to 12 million is our largest one. I was and still am an owner of a project called Clara, which is to bring a high-speed rail between Melbourne and Sydney. And at the beginning, we had full support, and still do actually, from the government in Canberra, led by Prime Minister Turnbull. And we had this idea of creating these 8 stops along an inward or an inland high-speed rail with a technology that worked very well and efficient every 100 kilometers. Over 100 kilometers, it would fail, as opposed to like Hyperloop that would just get you there right away. But the problem with Hyperloop is it has no economic stimulus packages. It's only from point to point. Every 100 kilometers along that route between Sydney and Melbourne, going up through Shepparton and all the way through, it allowed us now to actually create 8 compact cities.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. So as we approach the end of the interview now, what technology do you think will have the biggest impact on the buildings industry in the future?
Wow, which technology? Well, right now I'm very hot, only because we're really working with, again, one of those teenage sex things everyone's saying they're doing it, but they're not. Artificial intelligence. We're working right now with NASA on a fascinating project that involves taking the technology that they used and are using to simulate deep space travel, colonies on Mars, colonies on the moon. And what they're learning from the machine learning, the deep learning, is that the artificial intelligence thing can be used here on the planet Earth for creating simulations for first responders. One of the missions of NASA, they must take the innovations and the technology that has been used for space learning and provide it for free back to American citizens. That's like part of their thing. So one of the givebacks with what's called Audrey, which is the name of the artificial intelligence environment, is to help firefighters fight fires better. So last week I was in Indianapolis for the world's largest firefighting conference. There are about 35,000 firefighters of different, from the rookies all the way through the seasoned professionals, the people that are volunteers, all the way through the firefighting professionals that get paid by cities. And what was fascinating to me was the way that we're taking emerging technologies that no matter what is going to be the next big thing, be it, 10G Wi-Fi networks and, holographic displays, whatever is that next big thing on that whole technology adoption cycle, and whatever crosses the chasm, the thing that's going to be remaining is process and deep learning, because that's a continuous exercise that never stops. So I think that's going to have a profound effect on everything that people are fooling around with, from the virtual worlds of, from BIM to VR, AR, and mixed realities, all the way through to data management. Because when data stops becoming something that you either enter a key and hit, and input that way, and data becomes something that is in a cloud that you can access and connect with, now all of a sudden things become really interesting, because we start to then learn from what works and what doesn't quicker. And I think that is going to be the real measure of all architectural engineering, construction companies, real estate companies in the world, is how fast they can learn. It's no longer how fast you can just do something, because we're getting into robotics like you've never seen before. Why? Because we lost an entire generation of workers. It's not like we're kicking people out and stealing jobs. There's no people to fill those jobs. So that's going to be a huge one. Here in the U.S., we have even a deeper issue, that it's not just people that didn't enter the industry, but we can't find enough people to pass our drug-free workplace programs. The opioid crisis has killed the construction industry on top of it, because, I mean, quite frankly, we're in a dangerous industry. People get hurt on carpenters and roofers and all these people get hurt. And the number one thing that happens here in the U.S. is we give them a pill, and that pill is based on opioids. Why? Because it makes you heal, but then you get hooked and they never come back to work. They become drug addicts. Huge big deal. We need to start taking policy looks at things like that and seeing how we start overcoming, again, humans' irrationality, so that we can actually build a better built environment.
Absolutely amazing. Well, thank you so much, Paul. If people want to find out more about yourself and the Digit Group, where can they go?
Right up to the website would be the easiest. That or any Bloomberg TV show. It seems we're getting some traction. But yeah, our website's up at thedigitgroup.com.
G'day, guys. Adam Jones here. Just one quick thing before you go and enjoy the rest of your day. Would you like to join the email list to receive half-yearly reports on the things that are shaping the building industry? The latest special report will look at the top 5 technologies that are shaping the whole building industry. Because if you don't think technology is going to change your job, then you've probably been living under a rock or something like that. It can be downloaded on the front page of the website, www.futureofstructures.com. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.